Hi everybody, it's Dale Walsh, the poetic warrior from the Mental Health Warriors, and today I'm going to do a solo show. My guest, Mitch Kutch, had a family emergency, so he won't be able to be here, but I hope to talk to you and just give you some insight into my own story because most of the time I'm just talking with people. I don't really talk about myself. So we'll see what comes up. We'll have some poetry, we'll have some reflection, and we'll have my personal history a little bit. So stay tuned and have a great day. So, let me see if I can get this. Okay. There we go. Hi everybody, it's Dale Walsh, the Poetic Warrior, and we're going to have a special show today. It's just going to be me, and I'd welcome your comments and questions. If you have any questions that you'd be interested in asking me about schizophrenia or recovery, or even about poetry and the romantic quest. So let me just start and say. The more you dwell on your past, the more your past is going to come to haunt you. So I'm not going to go into great detail about what happened with me, but I do have a poem that I use as an introduction, which basically tells what happened to me when after my successful freshman year at Dartmouth College, when I was a big druggie, to tell you the truth, and I got hospitalized and taken away from Dartmouth for a delusion. So here's the poem. It's called Dale Reviewing What Actually Happened, and it goes like this. Hi, I'm God was the joke I made after killer Dartmouth toke of some primo Ivy League smoke, which apparently caused me to croak because in mental hospital I awoke with Roomy Gabriel, the main bloke who did my delusions angelically stroke, while doctor claimed my brain broke the moment divine gag I spoke, testifying I was only big quack, which clinicians diagnosed a psychotic attack, preventing me from getting sanity back until I came to Teaneck Hackensack to pursue resident therapy program track and deal with my evident lack of reason among psychiatric patient pack who never gave me any slack. Under interrogation, the story didn't crack. So thank you people for attending. I see we have Shira and Robert Booker and Kerry Duvall. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, just put them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. But basically, I just I want to say that I had divine delusions, and that's why I was taken away from Dartmouth, and it was basically a result of drug use. I did a lot of drugs. This was the 1970s, 1975, and marijuana was king, but also LSD, mescaline, mushrooms, all sorts of stuff. And I enjoyed them all, and ultimately they caught up with me. And that was, as I said, 1975, so that was 47 years ago. And I've been dealing with my diagnosis for that long. I don't blame anybody but myself for my infirmity and my diagnosis, and ultimately that's part of being God, because if you're God, then you're responsible for everything. And so basically, I just feel that I overstepped my bounds, and I realized the absurdity and the danger of saying that you're God. And in fact, I just had a revelation yesterday about about being God, and how my illness has played out, and it showed me that, I realized that Jesus is like the real Lord. And, I don't know if people accept that, but, I feel that there is a higher power. I always felt there was a higher power than me, even at the greatest height of my delusion. But, people ask me, what is recovery, Dale? You always say recovery is always an option. And I'm not going to go into my past because, as I say, if you don't kill the past, if your past doesn't die, then it'll kill your future. So I'm going to focus on the future and the present and talk about where I am today. It's been a long journey, and I tried for 30 years to prove to myself that I was God by writing. I have an archive of 5,000 poems and 6 novels, and just by trying through sheer output and creative intelligence to prove that I was God. And actually, as time has gone on, I've come to realize we're all fractals of God. We are all God in our own way. I used to pursue things that I felt would make my life unique, and but everyone's life is unique, and that's the precious gift of human life. And just trying to distinguish yourself and put yourself in a situation where you're higher than everybody. I didn't really want to be higher than anybody, because even when I first had my break at Dartmouth, I felt that God just wanted to be one of the guys, and so that's really what I pursued. There's a saying that humility is endless, and learning humility and learning how to deal with my delusions has been a ongoing process. But ultimately you try to share with your humility and be at the level of whoever you're with. And that's one thing that I felt even before my break, was that empathy was a very necessary component of human communication. So I see all these people on, and I appreciate it. Hi, Carolyn. It's been a long time since I talked with you. And so basically, people say, what do you mean by recovery, Dale? And that's at the core of my coaching program. I have a coaching program called Live Love, and it's for the families of schizophrenia and also serious mental illness. And basically, I had a revelation about 4 years ago that rather than just sitting around and, existing, my calling and my desire was to use what I've learned in my journey through schizophrenia to help the families of those with the illness, because it's been, I know how much hell I put my own family through, and there's no way that a person or a family or a loved one can be prepared for the onslaught of schizophrenia. And one thing about schizophrenia is it's probably one of the most democratic the illnesses out there. It can strike anybody at any time. Actually, there is a window of 15 to 25 for men and 20 to 30 for women when schizophrenia is likely to manifest itself. But the fact, ultimately the illness is democratic and can happen to anybody. And as I say, when a loved one is struck by schizophrenia, even if you are aware of the signs that it's coming on, there's nothing that can really prepare you for it, especially since most of the time it involves mental hospitalization and and therapy and learning to deal with drugs. And that the diagnosis, there's a thing. This is something that I always go into. there's a thing called anosognosia, anosognosia, which is talked about extensively in Dr. Javier Amador's book, I'm Not Sick and I Don't Need Help. But anosognosia means that a person is unable to comprehend that they're ill, that there's anything wrong. So even though they might be like truly psychotic and acting psychotically, they can't see that, even though it's obvious to those around them. And psychotic and psychosis is a term that's like very easily used, these days. And but ultimately, it just means that you're out of touch with reality, and people like can fight that definition and say, well, there is no ultimate reality in everything, but there is like a reality that basically 95 to 98% of the population agree on, and the other 2% are the schizophrenics and those suffering from psychosis. So, medical doctors and psychiatrists and everything basically have like taken the lead and like being the judges of what's reality and what's out of reality. But on the other hand, if you have a loved one who's obsessed with being followed by the FBI and he's like locking all the doors and closing all the windows and turning out all the lights, that's obviously not in reality, and it's very hard. It's very difficult to deal with that on a personal basis, and then there's a further point of if you do have someone who is suffering from a serious mental illness in your family, then it's a point of shame and guilt. I mean, it's a point of shame and guilt rather than like seeking therapeutic help, and that's basically what Live Love is directed towards. And just to give you an idea, I'll probably like go into Live Love at a different time in the future. But Live Love is an acronym that stands for Learn and Integrate, Validate, Explore, and Listen, Observe, Value, and Express. So those are the 8 steps of the program. So what I do in my coaching is I take people through an exploration of themselves and their loved ones. It's much more focused on the self of the caretaker and the caregiver than the person who's actually affected by the illness, because I'm not a professional. So I don't, but I can be a great supplement and complement to the professionals, especially for family members, because ultimately I've been through the situation that they're dealing with in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously every illness is different, and but there are like constructs about what the illness is that I'm very aware of, having gone through it. I was hospitalized 15 times, and one thing I say proudly is I was hospitalized 15 times and I was discharged 15 times. So basically, I've been in like just about every schizophrenic situation, from what my doctor called psychotic bliss, which was his official diagnosis, was his unofficial diagnosis for me for the first 7 years of our interaction, and to overwhelming despair and hope, and just a darkness that was extremely difficult. It was so dark that suicide wasn't even an option, because I was suffering so much that I didn't want to stop the suffering. Because I knew if I did, it would just go on, and that's where like my first doctor said to me, there's no geographical or physical separation from your illness, and that's one thing they said that was wise to me. So basically, what is recovery? Well, schizophrenia in its root meaning means shattered mind. So basically, schizophrenic has like whether it's like it's hallucinations or delusions or disorganized thinking or whatever, they're they aren't thinking straight. They can't understand, logic and everything. And they a lot of times this is what I did was they come up with an alternate logic to justify their illness. Uh, so basically, uh, one of the first steps that you have to overcome on the way to recovery is the agnosognosia, which is the inability to comprehend the illness. So, and no amount of talking is going to like help, dispel agnosognosia until the diagnosee, him or herself, understands that there's something wrong. So, that's what Dr. Amador talks about, and talks about empathetic listening and how aligning with yourself and partnering with your loved one to like come up with solutions. I mean, for instance, if you don't think anything's wrong with you, you aren't going to take psychiatric medication to make you feel that either makes you sleep 18 hours a day or makes you feel like you're outside your body. So that's one thing that, and in my own experience, I found that medication is necessary. And actually, the person who I was going to have on today, Mitch Kutch, he has multiple diagnoses, but he's never been hospitalized because he was self-aware enough to know that something was going on. But that type of self-awareness is very rare, I think. It took me basically 10 years and a traumatic experience to like realize that I wasn't God, and ever since then, it's like I've been like debriefing from my God stage, and so ultimately, the recovery is like where your healthy side, where the side of you that knows that you're sick, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to mince words, but you are sick, and where the part of you that's healthy realizes the sick part, and you create a dichotomy in yourself where the healthy part is given victory over the sick part. There's the old Indian saying about do you which wolf will be will which well I'll tell a story. So an old chief was talking to a young kid, and he said, "There's a wolf that was evil and and killed everything and everything, and then there was a good wolf who only killed it for food and everything." And so ultimately, he said, the kid asked. He asked the elder. He said, "Well, which wolf will survive?" And the answer was the wolf that you feed. So if you feed your sick side and you indulge it, and you deny your illness, then that side's going to be stronger. But if you understand and you're self-aware enough to understand that you have a healthy side, and that has to be employed to overcome the illness, then then you'll start to get better. So, what is recovery? Recovery, I say, is thank you very much for showing up, Shira. What I say is recovery is like the point where you like understand, and you take a proactive choice. You make a proactive choice that you're going to beat this illness, and that's the beginning of recovery. And recovery is where when people ask, I'm a poet, and I define things for people, and my definition of schizophrenia is living in a reality that was not conceived on Earth. And the next level of that is genius, which is you've integrated your schizophrenic reality into general reality. So that's what recovery is going from a schizophrenic to a genius and integrating what you see and know from your illness into general reality so that you can talk about it and help enlighten people. Not only, I mean, not necessarily the general public, but the people in your life, so that they can understand what you're going through, and there's a mutual understanding and there's a mutual respect for your for the sanctity of yourself. So so my the motto of Live Love is recovery is always an option, and I always say that the key word in this formula is option, because until you're willing to do the work and really understand that you have work to do, then you're just going to like get worse. And I've known a lot of schizophrenics who got worse, and I consider myself very fortunate that I've come off as well as I have. But not only did I have like self-awareness, ultimately it took me a long time, but I also had a sense of humor, which even when I got taken away from Dartmouth, and I said I was God, I said it as a joke. I really meant, but on a deeper level, I believed it. So, but my sense of humor was, how could God be 5'8"? So, so that's really, I think a sense of humor and faith in a higher power to get you through, and belief in yourself, and the love of your family, and the patience of your family. Those are the things that really are essential to helping you recover. And so another thing that I am famous for is my romantic quest and the desire for like the one woman and on the earth who will be my twin flame, or whatever you want to call it. And actually, I have a poem here. So it goes like this. This is from my book, Seraphim on the Cusp of Spring, which is available at Amazon. You just go to Amazon and put in Poetry Collection by D.E. Walsh, and I have 5 books on Amazon, but this is the first one. It goes like this. Looking for soul one love. The consolation of a kiss and the kick of consummation drives every person to the void at the edge of passion, full of longing for the bliss of an ideal relationship with a lover who knows the secret to marital longevity, even as we spend on this planet through the stark abyss of infinite space, too great to conquer in these bodies lent to men and women lost from the day of their birth, celebrated annually while growing into human knowledge of the intricacies of this life upon vast earth's sphere, whereon all comedy and tragedy transpires almost daily, when through the cosmos words and songs reverberate to the ears of the Lord, seated upon the holy celestial throne, with his Son, the Word, ready to intercede on our behalf, despite the strange ascent to which everyone is subject, as we seek out the perfect mate to satisfy our amour. So, just I call my ideal woman the Christ bride, and that's really, I've been a bachelor for 67 years, and I still have faith that I will find her. But ultimately, my romantic quest was based upon my feeling of entitlement, if that's the right word, or my feeling of being unique. That when I said I was God. So, I don't know. Are there any questions? I have been talking nonstop. So put any questions in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them. Let me see. Okay, I don't see any questions, but so my Live Love program is something that I'm still developing but it's going to be ready in probably a month or two. And if you're interested in like getting in touch with me, there there's a website at www.dewlivelove.net. And the DEW, Live Love is all one word. So you can find out about information about the Live Love program there. And I'm at 25 minutes. So basically, I just wanted to come on and present myself and let people get to know me a little better. Hopefully, we'll be back with Mitch Kutch next week or another great guest. And I want to thank you all for supporting the Mental Health Warriors. We're doing very important work. I want to send a shout out to Adam Duvall, and who organized and founded the Mental Health Warriors. And I hope people enjoy these shows. I've been doing them about a year now, so you can always go back in the archives and listen to other shows. But let me see. Okay, well, I think that's about all I need to say for today. I'll close with a poem, if I could. And one of the big steps in my the name of the show is Straight, Sane, and Sober, and the thinking behind that is straight means I'm off drugs except for medications. Sane means I'm taking medication, and sober means I'm not doing alcohol. So that's where Straight, Sane, and Sober is. So I'll close the show today with a poem called Treasuring My Straight, Sane Sobriety. And it goes like this. My determination to abstain is stronger than the appeal of substances for which I was for 3 decades a virtual slave, dealing with the infirmary of a disease affecting the deeper regions of my mind, taught from youth to be productive with insight into the hard problems plaguing both the societies humans have made and the planet God gave us to protect, while the millennia like days flow into eternity. So hope everybody has a great day, and thank you very much, and we'll see you next week hopefully, and see you on the other side. So take care.